It's your girl, Woe Better. You know the vibes. You know what it is. Let's get it. Let's do it.
Sound nice, check one. My mic sound nice, check two. My mic sound nice, check three. Are you ready?
You heard what the ladies asked you. Are you ready? Are you ready, though? Let's just jump right in. As you see, the title says mac and cheese, please. We're going to end Black History Month off the right way because I wind up catching the flu. How, when, don't know, but definitely was down for the count. I was able to put the blog up last week, but didn't wasn't able to sit down and actually get some recording done. So that's what we gonna do right there. Please forgive my hair. Yeah. Anyway, in 1400s, there was a book. The first book cookbook was recorded. It is called The Form of Curry, The Form of Curry, Method of Cookery. And that's where the first original recipe for mac and cheese lies. Was it mac and cheese that we know? No. It was actually kind of like a lasagna with no sauce. So, on that vibe, I don't think anybody really would have enjoyed mac and cheese the way it started out. And it's just kind of funny because Thomas Jefferson is linked or tied to a lot of black cultural history that had nothing to do with this white man, this president. Just so happens he had slaves or a slave that was actually really popular, James Hemings. We're gonna talk about him in a minute. But Thomas Jefferson, if most of y'all don't know, was our third president. He loved mac and cheese. He loved it. Now, the thing about his love for it is because of James Hemings. James Hemings was Thomas Jefferson's half brother. Anyway, and with the fact that James Hemings was a chef by nature, he was a cook by nature. And getting the opportunity to cook for the president and others made it, I guess, it made him appreciate what it is that he was able to bring to the table. And as time goes on, James, if just in case I might be skipping over some parts and it might be a little off, James Hemings was a slave. Yes, I did say his half sister was married to a president. That does not mean he should not have been a slave or could not have been a slave. Neither here nor there. And with the fact that he traveled with the president, made it a lot easier for him to be in position for things, or rather to be his best self, which was a chef. And they traveled to France. And with him and Thomas Jefferson traveling to France, James Hemings was able to lock in with some chefs, and they trained him very well for the next 5 years while they were there. And James Hemings mastered French cooking, mastered. And with him mastering French cooking, I feel like a lot of times, especially, I'm gonna just jump forward. In modern day time, a lot of us are going to culinary school or going to get these culinary experiences and realizing that it has no roots to us, has no trace back to our people. And unfortunately, you have to look and find the details that encompass African American people. But realistically, embedded in everything that goes on in the world. And for James Hemings to be able to go, you know what, I learned all of this fire technique because French cooking, culinary French culinary French style cooking is based on technique. So if you do the technique well or even know how to do it, it makes certain things a little easier. So we're gonna go back. And James Hemmings was engulfed in basically mastering macaroni pie, because that's what it was called. It was called mac pie. And it wasn't macaroni and cheese. It wasn't nothing that we knew yet. So what James Hemmings was able to do was to create basically an oven outside. So most people own a Dutch oven, whether you know it or not, or you realize the purpose for the Dutch oven. But with a Dutch oven, you can take that literally, sit it on fire, sit it on an open flame, and cook everything you want to cook. And as long as you know your temperatures or you know when to take it off, when to put it on, you'll be able to cook just like you would be cooking in an oven. So what James Hemmings did, he was making mac pie on an open flame. So basically, it's almost everything we know about mac and cheese just made in a Dutch oven on an open flame. And the average person, the average person enjoys mac and cheese, whether it's Kraft mac and cheese, whether it's baked macaroni and cheese, whether it's Stouffer's, you name it. You can think of a way that you've had mac and cheese that isn't all the same. And as a person, like I always love mac and cheese, particularly baked mac and cheese. Like my mother was funny, God bless her soul. She can take a box mac, right? Put the actual packet, like, cause we didn't like my mother wasn't the powdered Kraft girl. She was the processed packed cheese girl. So when she did make it, it wasn't, oh God, this box macaroni again. It was a treat because to bake macaroni and cheese once a week, every week, that doesn't even make sense. It's very costly. Cheese is expensive. And the process on making baked macaroni and cheese is a little bit more tedious than getting a box of processed, oh, well, pasta and getting some processed cheese, boiling your pasta, throw the processed cheese on it, season it up, boom, you got a meal. So I as I've become a little older, or rather now that I'm a chef, do I make mac and cheese that often? No. Can I make it on a regular basis? Because I keep cheese. I normally have the pasta, milk, all the parts that go along with it. Yeah. But do I need to make mac and cheese like that? Probably not. So just for Black history purposes, James Hemings is the reason why we enjoy mac and cheese. Him and Thomas Jefferson are the reason why we enjoy mac and cheese the way we do, and it's a cultural staple. Cultural. Baked mac and cheese is a cultural staple. Whereas, if not being funny, if you go talk to white people, some Hispanic people, Indian people, they don't make things, we all as cultures make things totally different. So as a girl that grew up eating in a couple of my friends' houses, shout out to their parents for having enough for me to eat to be able to have this conversation. They didn't make what my mom's made. They just didn't. Like, I'm going to do my next podcast will probably be about collard greens. And the reason why that is because almost all the things that I'm talking about tie back to Black people. They tie to a history or some culture that maybe you knew, maybe you don't know. Some people do, some people don't. But what we're gonna do is create a knowledge bank on the food that we're putting in our body, or why we're not putting these foods in our body. And you figure, for me, if you've been watching me or checking out my podcast, the first one was a recipe that my grandmother-in-law, God bless her, would ask me to make for her. Chicken and pancakes. Most people go, "Oh, chicken and waffles." Yeah, everybody don't want waffles. And I thought from there, I would just elaborate on different things that made Black people or helped us keep our culture a little closer. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, all she's talking about is black, 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 black." And growing up, I've always wanted to be inclusive with my friends because I didn't grow up with just black friends. I grew up with Hispanic friends, white friends, Asian friends, Yugoslavians, you name it. I've had a friend of that ethnicity. And the thing was, I always felt like, oh, nah, you can't treat people that way. Everybody got to be included. But when my 43-year-old self sits here and does this podcast and realize like, yo, most people don't know the origin of mac and cheese. They don't know the origin of, for instance, the buffalo wing. That's going to be something else I'll talk about. But I think I'm going to kind of jam pack it because literally I think I got 1 day left on Black History Month. And realistically, this podcast is basically going to be Black history in a way that goes throughout the year or the duration of my episodes or this season of Something's Missing. And I don't want to sit around and just be yapping about stuff that I don't have no facts on. Everything, almost everything that I'm talking about, I did my research on, watched videos, read something. It is what it is. But realistically, everything is going to be a learning experience. And shout out to One Mike. I forget this man's name. I figure out a way to chop this shit up every time. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, what I'm about to do is see if I can pull this up. I'll be right back.
Baked macaroni and cheese. Even though Hemings' crucial contribution to cooking and he was famous as a chef, he remained relatively unknown. This was because he was still enslaved under Thomas Jefferson until 1796, and he was one of only 2 slaves that Jefferson set free, and that was only under the condition that James would teach his younger brother Peter to take over in his place as Jefferson's cook of the household. Peter Hemings would then serve the dish at a state dinner in 1802, making it famous. Unfortunately for James, he would pass away at 36 in 1801, but Hemings' most important impact on American food culture was his introduction, macaroni and cheese. Adrian Miller, who's the author of Black Smoke, African Americans in the United States of Barbecue, explains about Hemings that its story is a metaphor for African American cooking and our experience in this country. It's the story of innovation and virtuosity. Often African American cooks get overlooked for our contributions and our accomplishments. In the early 19th century, the dish we call macaroni and cheese was primarily a food of the elite. This was because dried macaroni was not commonly accessible and Americans didn't know how to make good quality pasta. In addition to this, Italian cheeses, which was a key ingredient in macaroni and cheese, was too expensive for most Americans.
And on that note, what the reason why I went out of my way to get that piece of information from One Mike History, shout out to him. He has a fire YouTube page that gives you backstory on a lot of things that most of us have eaten and didn't know the origins or how it came to be. So if you want more in-depth detail on mac and cheese, go check him out, One Mike History. Definitely a dope YouTube page for some knowledge. And he's got a lot of knowledge up there. So, um, yeah, James Hemings changed the game for mac and cheese. So you figure after that, once like what I didn't go so hard on in the video was the fact that after that, uh Americans figured out a way to process pasta, come up with processed cheese. So that in turn made mac and cheese a lot more affordable because, like you heard, it was for the elite. It wasn't for people that were broke. So if you had a couple of dollars, you figured out a way to have some mac and cheese. And as a person that grew up eating that, you couldn't have told me, "Oh, this is for the elite," because I didn't my mom's wasn't elite, like, she wasn't rich, so when we're eating it, we don't know how far it had came to get where we were able to have it maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, depending on who you were. Um, yeah, now we just gonna get into some quick, dope food facts. Did you know that mac and cheese has its own day, July 14th, National Mac and Cheese Day. Also, in 1993, Crayola made a crayon. Guess what color it was? Is mac and cheese. It's crazy. And it's a mix between, if I remember correctly, it's been mixed between orange and yellowish. So it's got its own swaggy. Um, I know Imma fuck this name up. Sheer Reber Foods in Utah set a Guinness World Record for making 4,742 pounds of mac and cheese, celebrating its 50th year in business. Anyway, if you are the type that wants to enjoy your mac and cheese a little bit more grown and elevated, boom, I got you. We got if you make it with good cheeses, and y'all can take this how y'all want. Cracker Barrel is not a good cheese. Uh, if you are able to get to like I live in the Bronx, not too far from Little Italy on Arthur Avenue. There's a cheese store there. There's a couple of places where you can go purchase quality cheese. This is not a brick of cheese that comes in a plastic. Somebody got to cut it for you. You tell them exactly how much you want. They're going to tell you how much you're going to pay. And it's not going to be cheap. For me, like, they have these dope truffle cheeses, they got cheeses with peppers, cheeses made with port wines. It's just so many options that you can go with for cheese compared to what we know as going to the supermarket and purchasing cheese. A lot of us don't realize there were what they call specialty stores now, but back then you didn't go to one place to purchase everything. You went to the butcher or the meat market to get your meat. You went over here to get your pasta, over here to get your cheese and milk and dairy products and things of that nature. And now in modern day time, they want us to believe that it's okay to go into this one place and get everything in one spot, even though this has been a thing for a while. But as a person who enjoys and appreciates quality, it changes the dynamic of your mac and cheese. Like one year, I want to say maybe a couple of years ago, maybe the top of 21, maybe the top of 21 at end of 20, I had got, like, this port cheese. It kinda had, like, a purplish tint to it, but it tasted like somebody like, if you've ever been or had a charcuterie board and somebody give you some good cheese with some wine, it kinda had that vibe, but just in the cheese. I had some truffle cheese. I had a cheese that had Calabrian peppers in it, and as a person that I like to try new things. I put all of these cheeses and some blue cheese. All of these cheeses in to my mac and cheese, and I had gave it to my brother-in-law and a friend of his, and the way she was talking about that mac and cheese, just the bubblage on it, like, it was different. That let me know that the way I had been eating mac and cheese for a long time was quiet. So if I do make mac and cheese now, it's rare that I go to the supermarket and just get basic bitch cheese because a lot of us we don't like to use the word basic or regular because it hurts somebody's feelings that don't mind being regular. I'm not that. My mac and cheese is not humble. Let's just say that. I like to use luxurious cheeses. I'm not using an elbow pasta. If you are still eating your mac and cheese with an elbow pasta or making your mac and cheese with an elbow pasta, you should try other pastas. It holds the cheese better, it feels better in your mouth, you don't feel childish eating it. Now, what I do use elbow macaroni for is maybe a mac salad. Other than that, I don't use that shit. I think it's very childish, but that's me. Back to what I was trying to get to before I got a little sidetracked. But if you're gonna have those good cheeses that I was mentioning, you can pair your mac and cheese with like a Chardonnay wine, a dry Riesling, or champagne if you're bourgeois. If you want to go all the way classy with it, you get you a nice champagne. But I think a Chardonnay would definitely hit. Dry Riesling, I think I'm saying that right. Riesling is all right, but pairing it with your mac and cheese probably will take it to another notch. You can go pretty much anywhere in the world and try mac and cheese. Where there's always a festival, an outdoor market that somebody is basing their whole thing off of mac and cheese. Like one year in the Bronx market, there was somebody selling mac and cheese balls, if I remember correctly. I've tried to make that and I thought it was quite interesting. Like if you're somebody who makes a lot of mac and cheese and you don't want the rest of it to go to waste, take it, excuse me, in its form, excuse me, make it into balls, pulls, uh, whatever shape floats your boat. Let's say that. And you put it in some milk, maybe egg, depending on who you are, and then you get it into some flour, and then you do some breadcrumbs, right? And then you're gonna fry this joint. And depending on who you are, this is going to take leftover mac and cheese to a place that you ain't never experienced before. And it's dope because it's just so you don't be wasteful. But in the same aspect, it's a dope spin on mac and cheese. I don't know if y'all know this, but a Google search on mac and cheese will return over 7 million results. 7 73 million results. My bad. I said that all the way wrong. It will return 73 million results on how, why, and what mac and cheese is. And then everybody, I don't think I've ever met a person that will tell you, oh, my mac and cheese is the best. And I'm not shitting on your mac and cheese, but realistically, what makes it the best? Is it your cheese? Is it the pasta? Is it the love you put into your mac and cheese? Because everybody, if you're making mac and cheese from scratch, you got to put some love into it. I know people that cook. Do they cook from scratch? Probably not. If you're making mac and cheese, don't ever, ever, ever use cheese that is already pre-shredded. Pre-shredded because there are anti-caking agents on the cheese to keep it from coagulating. Cheese needs to coagulate with the milks and all of these other things to become one thing. Your mac and cheese should look like that, not like this, where it's entities. But also, don't be scared to try other versions of mac and cheese as well. Because as a person that goes, all right, cool, I like learning. I do. And I went on a culinary experience over the last year that I was able to try a different version of mac and cheese, and I thought it was impeccable. Shout out to Chef Diamond. She showed me so many different ways to look at food that we've been eating our whole lives. And as a person that I genuinely appreciate learning from someone who put in the work. She went to school, she has degrees in this food thing. And I respect it because if I had a known when I was younger that I could have went and got a degree in food of some sort. Don't get me wrong, when you go to culinary school, you can just go and not get a degree, but to come back with a degree in food. And when I say that, I mean like as a people, we don't care enough about the food that our ancestors ate. That's why I did a podcast about chitlins. Most people who know me know damn well I ain't eating no chitlins. But if the right person were to make them for me or show me how to set it up, I might be able to make it and hopefully impress somebody who's eaten them or eats them. Either way, we're losing our people. So when I say that, I mean like a lot of us don't have elders. Only elders I have right now, I have two aunts and I have a lot of older cousins from my mom's side. But realistically, I don't have many elders to be able to go, ooh, try my chitlins and let me know how these are. Or these pig feet or whatever it is, because most people my age or younger had not experienced any of these foods. They don't even know what they are. And I was watching a video. I can't remember the name of I think it's Eater. I think it is, but anyway, where they had white people trying Southern cooking for the first time. Well, there was maybe 1 or 2 people there that had a couple of the things before, but realistically, it was a first time try, and to watch white people try chitlins for the first time was epic, and the reason why I say that is because realistically, whoever made this food, I obviously knew what they were doing, but realistically, what happens is I feel like when you don't have like, they had somebody that was sitting up there giving them the knowledge on a lot of the food that they were eating, but I feel sometimes us as Black people, we are not comfortable enough to go, "Hey, this is ours." Cultural appropriation, right? Where we get shut out of a lot of things because of our skin color, the way we talk, the way we dress, the way we look. And with food, I realized, yes, you can still be shut out the same way. So you got to be comfortable enough in your skin to go, hey, mm-mm, this culture, this thing that we love so much, I'm rocking with that. I'm taking that and I'm going to run with it until somebody is comfortable running behind me or in front of me where I can pass the baton. Because when I look back on it now, I feel like culturally, my mother was trying to make sure I knew where I came from. And regardless of my mother never going back down south as after her loan experience or experiences down south. My mother hated the fact that she had to use an outhouse. My mother disliked the fact that she couldn't go in places and get the candy she wanted because the white people didn't allow it. It was just a lot of experiences that my mother broke down to me that she had as a child down south that I'm not gonna lie to you, it turned me off from wanting to go down there. But when I did go and when I did get to experience it, it wasn't what my mother experience was, so I was thankful for that. And in modern day time, I was just listening to a podcast, shout out to Black Girls Eat, and it's amazing to know that there's so many creatives, so many chefs, so many curators that are willing to put the knowledge out, willing to do the work that I don't wanna say the people before us wasn't willing to, but they didn't understand how we really needed that. Where, like, don't get me wrong, did my mother need to force me to eat chitlins? No. But could she had explained to me why we were eating them or what was like the significance behind them? I think she could have, and she dropped the ball on that. And as a person that I'm not mad because she didn't feel the need to break it down to me. What my mother did show me was cooking from scratch wins every time. So, for instance, I was in the mood for chili. And normally I make chili where I have a ground beef of sort, then I might take like a chuck, chop it down to like nice chunks so that you're always gonna get like an exceptional bite of meat in your mouth. Because there's chilies that they cook them so long the meat disintegrates into the sauce and now you're just kind of eating a sauce. And I saw this dope recipe. Uh, Again, shout out to dude that can cook on YouTube. He made a chili that was worth me copying, if I must admit. And what I would do differently is play around with my peppers. Like, being that I live in Little Italy or not far from it, there's a lot of Mexican culture in that area where you can go get guajillo peppers. I can't think of the name of the other one because I don't want to fuck up the name, but realistically, there's so much culture in eating if you know how to eat properly. So I would add maybe a different pepper than what I did originally to this chili. Oh, and I made it with a brisket. The point of me copying this recipe was because it was made with brisket. And most of us here in New York, we don't get good barbecue, right? And I say that comfortably because literally, if I'm not mistaken, here in the Bronx, we have I think it's called the Hudson. I can't think of the name of the exact place, but there's a place down uh in a good eatery area. What is that, like 138th back there, Brook area? And they have some good barbecue. If you're ever in the mood for barbecue, I think it's called the Hudson. Anyway, I'm gonna see if I can find the name. And as a person that goes, damn, why we don't have more of this? Rather than go, oh, I'm gonna break my neck to go spend money with people that I'll be able to do that maybe once, maybe twice a month just to enjoy some good barbecue. Why not create it myself? So, with that, I had a brisket. Well, rather, I purchased the brisket and I broke it down and I realized fast that I need a butcher knife very fast. I have uh a deboning knife. I have good ass chef's knives. But now I realize why these butchers be killing because they have these big ass knives that you're able to swipe through the fat and keep it pushing. Anyway, once I break this brisket down, I cut it in half and I go, all right, cool. I was gonna grind it. My grinder is, for the lack of a better word, not as strong or powerful as I would like it to be. And it didn't do what I needed it to do, possibly because I left the meat out. I didn't refrigerate it and make it solid again. But neither here nor there. Rather than get upset, I said it and I literally hand chopped the meat that's in my chili. And not the greatest hand chop either. Not gonna lie to you. At first, I started off good. By the end, I was tired. I was getting aggravated. So it's probably a little bit more chunk in there than I would like. But I think it came out pretty exceptional for a hand chop. And I was really excited, right? Because the things that we do as a people, we tend to be able to go, all right, I did it this way. That's the only way I can do it, and that's it. For me, it's always about trying to elevate and take it to another level. So normally when I make my beer, you hear me? When I make my beer, when I make my chili, I normally don't use beer. I do go beef stock on them, but it's a certain aspects to these things that could change that. Where his recipe is called, he used an IPA, non-alcoholic beer, where I use Artistella. I forget how to say that name. And I didn't have a good beef stock. I had to use like beef bouillon because I did not feel like going to buy bullshit ass beef stock that I know was not going to be good. So with that, that also put in my mind to go, hey, I think over the weekend I'm gonna get me some beef bones or just beef in general, and then roast it down and create a good beef stock. My chicken stock game is I like where I'm at with it. I've learned how to make chicken stock with just straight chicken bones, flesh, you name it. I can make a good stock. I can make a good vegetable stock. What I haven't done yet, I even made a turkey stock out of all this damn. I bought a turkey to smoke it, neither here nor there, and I made a good turkey stock. But beef, maybe like a veal, something like to get these nutrients out of these bones and flavors, one, you want to roast that. But it was just a process. He had like his own beef stock, so it changed the dynamic of the taste that you're gonna get at the end. And what I've learned is that I love fire techniques where you can go, "Ooh, yeah, I cook and I do this," but if I show you the little nuances that I do to my food compared to what you're doing to yours, you'll be able to go, "Ooh, I taste the difference." You should be able to taste the difference. And, yeah, like, food is what I do. Food is what I do. I enjoy it. I live it. As you see, I got my good chef jacket on today for y'all. I was gonna throw a hat on, but I got these 2 puffs in the back of my head that was kinda keeping my hat from being shown. I ain't gonna hold y'all. I wanna show it to y'all anyway, though. Boom. That good SOC. You see that skunk on there? Let me show you. Wow. This is a good smoker's brand. If you are a connoisseur of marijuana and you like some good marijuana gear, this is somebody to check out. SOC Loud Life. The hat itself is amazing. Look at this. Wait, the other way, my bad. You see that? If you know anything about culture, the reason why I fell in love with this hat is because that's Reggie Miller. And you see what it says? Loud life only. So if you grew up in a certain time, you know, you see what that says? No Reggie. And as a person that grew up in a time where you can have somebody pull up on you with some dirt weed, Reggie weed, and it was amazing. It was a great time because this is why these kids are retarded because they're smoking so much loud and Zaza and all this fire ass weed that their brains are not developed. When I grew up, you had to smoke in levels. So you started off with the dirt, Reggie, and then it got to haze, and I don't want to say sour just yet because haze was the thing. Haze, Dabla, Mango Piña, things like that. If you was around in that time, then you get to the sour sounds. Oh, what a time to be alive. If you were outside, give or take, I want to say for me, I'm gonna speak for me. I had a good run with sour. This had to be 2008, 2000 between 2008 and 2009, maybe 2007. Um, I had this guy. He was bringing like propane gas to my block. Where I'm gonna tell you how I met him. He used to. We don't know. You don't know who I'm talking about. He used to sell dust to one of my peoples on my block. He would leave, and as he's driving off, you can smell the weed coming out of his car to the point where I had my peoples call him back, and I go, "Yo, can I get some bud?" And didn't little did I know he had that as well. And when I say fire, where he was selling dubs of the joint, and the dubs of the joint he was selling were probably about that big. Yeah, probably about that big, You probably get a little girth on the bag, a little fat, but you was gonna be right. And every day after a while, people started to run up on me, "Yo, whoa, could I buy some of that?" No. My man pulls up every day at the same time. Imma call him every day at the same time. Before I cop, I'm going to tell you niggas, "Hey, I'm about to cop out. Give me your money, cause I don't even want y'all niggas running up on him." That's how like, we use this word now called gatekeeping. Call me a gatekeeper. Because I'm the type that I know, depending on who the person is, they'll figure out a way to fuck something up for me. I've always been a person that respects business. I respect people's boundaries. I don't overstep. So literally, I'll never forget it. One day I bought maybe $200 worth of sour from this guy. And as he's pulling off, my man pulls up and he's like, "Yo, whoa, call your man back." And now at this time, I don't even do that because the amount of bud that I have, I'm able to sell to these niggas. And where they became mad is I wasn't selling it for $20. I would sell it for $30. Because when you had the opportunity to give me $20 and get what you wanted, you didn't want to do that. You thought you was gonna smoke off of me, smoke up my weed, and it was just gonna be all good. Sorry, wrong person. And as a person that always been a pot connoisseur, so to say. Once I started smoking, I enjoyed it, and I was always gonna find good quality bud. And as the times went on and as we are in 2024, that hat has so much significance because most people in modern day time wouldn't even know what Reggie Bud is. So when I first saw the hat, I'm not gonna hold you, I instantly fell in love. I really wanted a different hat because it had a pin on it. I'm a pin girl, but this hat actually was absolutely fire to me because of the No Reggie joint. And you had to be there. You just had to freaking be there. If you wasn't there, you wouldn't even understand the significance of that. But oh, let me show you how the bottom. Wow, that's weird. I don't know why it's showing up blue like that. But anyway, um, yeah, so with that, shout out to SOC Loud Life, Big Gas. Uh Check them out. If you're in the Middletown, Westchester area, definitely go give them check out Loud Life, check out Big Gas because they're doing major, major things. And we're probably going I'll probably do like a marijuana episode before I end this season. But yeah, and I just kind of want to touch on something before I get out of here. Like I'm gonna do a little current events. I try to do current events and keep it quick and popping. Shout out to Wendy Williams. God bless her. Pray for her. Even though most people don't understand the fact that this lady had a job to do and she did it to the best of her ability. She did it better than the best of her ability. Wendy was great at what it is she was doing. For us black people, she was the first, she's the only, well, now we got Charlemagne and a couple of others, but if it wasn't for Wendy Williams, there would be no Charlemagne. First off, let's just put that out there. Second, Wendy Williams changed the way we viewed gossip. So now we have the shade room, uh, all of these different gossip rags. That's basically what they are. I grew up in a time where you got your gossip from the Inquirer, and I think it was the Globe. It was one of these, they were, gossip rags, that's what they called, gossip papers, where you found out the star's business and things like that, and I feel like it was still censored where the stars kinda had the ups to be able to go, "Oh, you can't post that. You can't say that." Now, you could put somebody's whole life on Front Street on a post in 60 seconds and have them fucked up. But shout out to Wendy Williams, because if it wasn't for Wendy Williams, we wouldn't have any of these avenues. And Imma keep her in my prayers because she deserves it. Like, all Black women deserve to be protected and loved and held uplifted, let's say that. So, shout out to Wendy Williams. Let me see, what else are we talking about? I don't wanna talk about Diddy, but I'm going to briefly because a lot of us grew up listening to bad boy music. It shaped who a lot of us are, even down to the Black excellence, ghetto fabulous, all of these things that were created around with Puff, P. Diddy, Brother Love, whatever y'all call him these days. Um, he fucked up. He fucked up big time. And the fact that now there's something where they're talking about him and Justin was involved in a shooting in a studio, and I feel like Puff is one of those people that will bring the whole fucking ship down and not think twice to go, "Oh, yo, let me protect you. Let me push you over here. Let me make sure you're good." No, no, we're not gonna do that. And it's funny because in all actuality, what happens in a situation like that, um, nobody's checking this guy. And the people that are checking him, they're not doing the right thing. They're putting him and his family and kids in a position where their legacy is gonna be chopped and screwed. And I'm not being funny because as Black people, we only want the best for our people. But if we're not gonna do the best, you're not gonna get the best. You're gonna get some backhanded, underhanded bullshit. And being that most of us are used to slippery, slimy people that do whack things to get ahead, we accept it. But I feel like in this particular situation with Puff, I don't think we should continue to accept that. We don't deserve that as a people. We don't deserve that as the world that we living in now is bad enough. We gotta watch the president. We gotta watch the people that's running. Like, I remember growing up. Don't get me wrong. My mother always told me, like, I always seen my mother vote. I always like. She always made that a thing. So to be in this day and time where we gotta get out and vote. We gotta do our part because unless y'all want Donald Trump back in office or even this Joe Biden dude, like, y'all gotta do better on who y'all choose to bring in, or rather, we gotta do our due diligence to make sure that we're bringing in people that have our best interests at heart. Puff don't have nobody's best interests at heart. He's literally fucking everybody, but that's a whole nother thing. Um, but most of us, Risa Tisa, why the fuck did I get married? She created like a trapped in a closet situation from the guy. And it was weird because when I heard people originally talking about it, I'm like, yo, this happens all the time on TikTok. If you've never been on TikTok like that, you don't know that people sit up there and have story time. And I don't knock it because I definitely get engulfed in some of these stories. But for it to be 50 10-minute videos, 50, 51, whatever it was, for her to tell a story on her ignorance. Because at first I really did feel bad for Shorty. I'm like, nah, at the end of the day, her being a church going woman, they pumping into her that she needs a husband, she needs to have babies and all of these things, which is true. Well, not really. If that's what you want, that's what you want. But when you decide a man is good based off of the fact that he changed your tire and was willing to pay your bills, in a situation where he shouldn't even been in your quarters. You figure she met this man that what was it, the top of 2020? I think she said she met him March 17th, 2020. For me, March is always a weird month, that 2020 especially because that was the year I lost my mother. And I think that was the day that they shut down the world. Like you couldn't go to hospitals. They really didn't want us outside. So when you decide to quarantine with somebody you don't know nothing about, when I say nothing, she knew nothing about this man. And next thing you know, she goes from knowing nothing, him quarantining in her place, to they're looking at homes and cars, and it's a lot of the things she's saying that I like me personally, I ain't never look at no house, like, to go purchase a house with my wife. But I know damn well ain't nobody gonna be able to tell me, "Oh, yeah, we pulling up to get the house straight cash." Straight cash. And then on top of that, I think we gonna Imma just spin a little back. She said the nigga was an arena football player. Arena. All football players play in an arena of some sort. But I think she's trying to say, like, I forget what they're called. It's like, like, I think it's CBA for people that don't play in the NBA. So, like, a lower form of football player. And as a person who I'm not gonna make it seem, yeah, I'm a little worldly. I know some shit. So, they don't make that much money. So when she's like, "Oh, yeah, he was doing this, he was paying the bills, though." Okay, that's not hard to do. Then the nigga tells her he's a VP for the condiment company, but leave every day looking like a fucking worker. There was so many red flags before she got knocked up, before they got married. She was in a desperate state, ladies. And I'm not gonna make it seem like she's the only person that's been in a desperate state. A lot of us have done things out of desperation that you look back on later on and you be ready to take your whole leg off and kick yourself in the fucking back because you could have avoided hurt, embarrassment, uh, depending on if you come out of pocket. It's just a lot of different things. And I don't wanna say I'm judging her because I follow somebody on Instagram, she's a lawyer, her name, if I remember correctly, it's from Hood Rat to Harvard. And when like, she's a content creator, and a lot of times, I take it, people be in people inboxes asking them what they think about these situations. And her being a lawyer, she said something that was super real. Background checks don't cost shit. And in 2020, it wouldn't have been hard to go Google this man, Google where he was from, who he was related to, all of these things, and saved herself some time and trouble. But as a person that realized clout is a motherfucker, clout will have you out here doing things that make no sense. So when most likely people was telling her, "Oh, but he's a good man, don't worry about it," she might have been keeping all of this shit to herself for all we know. But for her to get up there, tell this story, make hella bank off of the fact that she was willing to tell this story and have people tune in to the story is more the victory story. Because yeah, he did her filthy. She did herself filthy. But did she win in the end? $86,000 later? I think she won. Does it make it right? No. Where we as black women need to be okay with hitting other black women and going, "Hey, girl, you ain't got to deal with that. You don't know me. You don't owe me. But just know because we share the same complexion, we go through the same things monthly. We have uterus, we have titties, we have a vagina. I love you. I want to see you win. I don't want to see you out here looking like Boo Boo the Fool. I don't want to see that for you. So, if I can do anything, whether it's conversation, not say nothing and just let you vent, feed you, nourish your soul, I'm willing to do that as a black woman because we don't have enough love for one another. We don't have enough love for ourselves. We already know ain't nobody coming to save us. Ain't nobody coming to help us, nothing. So if we're not gonna do it for each other, who the fuck is? And this Risa Tessa, whatever the fuck this lady's name is, proves that. Because I guarantee you, most women sat up there and judged this woman, not really taking into account of what people say to you at church or elders, period. Elders would that look you in your face and go, "You not pregnant yet? You're not thinking about having no babies yet? Why you ain't married yet?" And it's like, ma'am, how many times you been married? Or how many kids you have throughout those marriages? Right. I don't want to be that. That right there is exactly what I don't want to be. But rather than us be disrespectful or rude, we accept it and we internalize that shit. Where you sitting around going, but why am I not married? Why am I going through this? Why don't I have a baby yet? And when in all actuality, you should be focused on, am I healthy enough to have a baby? Is it because of that? Is my mental strong enough to handle a baby? Damn sure most people ain't having that conversation. And is this man right for me to start a life or can create a life with that I will never be able to get rid of this person? And I think that's a realization that most people don't take into account. Having sex is fun. It feels good. It whatever it does for you, right? But when you have sex with somebody and create a life, are you okay with knowing that you will never be able to get rid of this person for the rest of your life? The child, as well as the person you made the child with. You are never getting rid of them. And most people will go, oh no, once the kid is 18, now y'all got to deal with adult problems. The fuck? I don't know who or why y'all have this idea that once these kids are legally adults, y'all don't have to deal with them. Nigga, you worry worse when you have an adult child. You worry more about somebody hurting them or making them feel inadequate in the world. Whereas if as little kids you go, all right, cool, I don't want nobody to treat my kid no way. You could pop off and pop out. But as adults, we kind of forget, oh shit, this little motherfucker still needs me to be there, to be guidance and to help and to love and things like that. And most of y'all are failing fucking horribly at this. So rather than sit around and judge every fucking nook and cranny about this woman that y'all have no clue on, y'all don't know her. She gave us a backstory, but she didn't give us her backstory, her mental state, her emotional state before she got into this relationship. So, on that note, what I want to say is everybody has a Ressa Tessa story, some way, shape, or form. Do you want to be judged for it? Because if you don't mind being judged for it, tell your funky ass story on TikTok like she did, or Instagram, or Facebook, wherever the fuck you want to tell a story. And then let us be the judge of how ignorant you are or how dumb you was. I guarantee you it ain't gonna work because most of us are not built for ridicule. We're not built to be hurt, feelings hurt. I grew up in a time where me and my friends snapped on each other for fun. Niggas talked about each other's moms, niggas talk about drug habits, deficiencies, things that most people do not find funny in modern day time. So, if you could sit around and judge somebody for the fact that they was in love or they felt the way or even just not knowing better. If you comfortable judging somebody for not knowing better, put one of your stories out there, and I guarantee you, you will feel exactly the way Ressa Tessa felt, or even worse, because you ain't dealt with your shit. At least she was like it. She said somewhere in there that that took so much out of her telling that story all over again, reliving that shit all over again. And for most of y'all to sit up there and talk about this lady like y'all ain't go through something similar or worse, damn shame. Damn shame. My wife would tell anybody, yeah, that bitch felt bad for her. And it wasn't that I felt bad for her. I'm just going, damn, how many more black women have to be shitted on before we start taking accountability for our own actions and not loving on our sisters. So, on that note, I'm going to get up out of here. Peace and love to you. Loving on y'all. Love on me. Share, like, follow. Tell your friend to tell a friend. Come check your girl out because I'm doing this thing and feeling kind of good about it, if I must say so. Thank you again. This is Something's Missing podcast. I'm your girl, Wo Better. Chef Wo Better. I'm out.